What's up, comic book fans? And welcome to Comics Icons. Now, JJ, what they call me. And today, we got Batman by Matt Fraction. Now, at the time of this recording, the newest issue that just came out for this Batman series is actually issue number 3. But since this is actually the first video on this series being covered on this channel, I'm gonna have to go and give you guys a little bit of a catch up, a refresher for issues 1 and issue 2. So with that being said, if you guys are interested in this all new run of Batman written by Matt Fraction, a chance to finally start over again at issue number 1 of a mainline Batman series since the last one started almost 10 years ago, then ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. Let's get it. So going all the way back to the first issue of this series, issue number 1, Killer Croc had escaped, and he kind of went on a mindless tirade for food. He attacked a meat truck and just had his own Thanksgiving Day feast, so to speak. And that's when we first met with our boy Batman in this nice blue and gray suit, which I kind of dig, by the way. Y'all let me know if y'all digging the Batman in the blue uniform nowadays. I think that's kind of fire, but partially because blue is my favorite color, so. But we also meet this doctor at Arkham Tower, where Waylon had just escaped from. But the doctor is telling Batman that Waylon Jones, AKA Killer Croc, had actually self-reported for treatment. So he could have left at any time. There was no point in breaking out. And also that this particular containment unit was built to withstand a bomb blast, and Killer Croc just smashed right through it. But Batman also realizes that this particular doctor is new, and he reminds the doctor that Killer Croc hasn't been Waylon Jones for a long time. And Batman tells her that he tries to keep them separate in his mind, so it's a little bit easier that way when they inevitably disappoint. And this new doctor, she acknowledges that, yeah, he may have been a supervillain, but he's a patient to her. And Waylon Jones is changing. He began to shed his skin, but it was even deeper than that. It's almost as though he was shedding everything on the inside and out. But Batman's response is that people never really change. And she responds, tell that to Waylon. He's been exposed to unknown morphotoxins with unpredictable results. He's regressing, gentle, almost childlike. And then Batman chimes in, but then your mutating man-killing monster baby wanted to go out and play. He may be capable of great violence, but he's capable of great tenderness too. Curiosity even, the doctor replies. But now he's afraid. And fear prevents us from having a say in how our minds respond to the chaos of trauma. But it requires trust, care, and time. Which of course Batman reminds this Dr. Zeller that they don't have time. And he asks if she already called the police, and she's like, I may be new, Batman, but I'm not stupid. I called you first. And Batman's response is, well, when the police do come, stall. If they find Croc before I do, they'll shoot to kill. In the meantime, I'll do my best to find your patient. But we're also met with Vandal Savage, who's now the police commissioner in Gotham, as he introduces us to his quote-unquote a force multiplier for the streets from the world of private security, his tactical urban combat officers. Tuco. But these guys they execute high-intensity operations like recapturing tonight's escapee, aka Killer Croc. And they are deputized and sanctioned to aid and abet you in bringing back law and order to our streets at all costs and by any means necessary. And he stresses that any means. He wants everybody to radio in for a Tuco backup in the event of any type of augmented criminal activity. You are not to engage, observe, and report only. They will be deployed to resolve matters immediately. And one of the officers is like, well, Commissioner Savage, what do we do if we see, him? Savage responds to this officer, his time will come. The Batman can't outrun Gotham justice. But then we pick back up with Batman as he's racing to find Killer Croc. And this is one thing I would like to hear you guys' suggestion or you guys' thoughts on. As he's talking to what looks to be a hologram or AI of Alfred, who, spoiler alert, who was killed in the previous Batman run, killed by Bane. But he's seeing what looks to be a hologram. I've heard some people say that it's an AI. But my own personal thoughts is I think this is all in Batman's head. I don't think Alfred is really there. And I think as some of these issues go on, you'll kind of see my point on this one. But I want to hear your thoughts if you think that Alfred is really there. Or do you think that this is an AI version of Alfred? But this version of Alfred basically asks Batman, he basically says to Batman, I wonder where we're going. Batman responds that he's playing on a hunch. Literal as always, sir. Well done, Alfred responds. But Batman tells him either that doctor is right or I am. People can change or they can't. And which do we find worse, sir? This Alfred responds. But in that moment, Batman catches a police call for all cars being reported to Robinson Park. So Batman puts a hold on that conversation and heads that way. Meanwhile, in Robinson Park, there's a couple of young ladies that are on the run from some goons that are up to no good. But Batman just plows through these goons with his Batmobile. I mean, this is full speed. I know they say Batman don't kill, but he sure leads you pretty damn close. But he puts all these guys on their asses and he saves these girls, and Batman notices a particular butterfly. Morpho Manili. I'm not even gonna try that one. But he recognizes the butterfly and says that she's a long way home, and he goes to follow where these butterflies are. Meanwhile, the girls are like, wait, you just gonna leave us alone? And Batman's like, never. EMT will arrive in 3 minutes. Until then, he tells the car to protect them, which he does. But Batman, meanwhile, heads over into the Gotham Natural History Museum, where it looks like these particular butterflies have escaped from, and basically determines that this is where Killer Croc had been hiding. As we see one security officer along with a mother and a daughter. And the security officer is calling like crazy for backup, but no one is responding until Batman sneaks up on the security guard, covers his mouth, and tells him to put away the gun because they're scared of the child, and it's only gonna make Croc angrier. Batman, meanwhile, heads in, getting ready to have an intense battle with Killer Croc, and he charges up his Bat gauntlets. Says he's gonna strike a little terror into his heart. But when Killer Croc sees Batman, he lets out a huge roar. But he doesn't attack. He's kind of like childlike, like the lady said, like the doctor said. He's like, you bad, so go. Meanwhile, we see that this hologram AI, or just mental memory of Alfred, whichever you call it, responds to Batman. Master Bruce, what if Dr. Zeller is correct? Some creatures do, in fact, change. What if some eternal cycle has begun with him again? And even if only for this moment, he's become something like a child alone, in a violent, terrible world he cannot understand, drowning in fear. It's if, as you say, and no one ever really changes, Master Bruce, then surely you know how that feels. So this prompts Batman to basically remove the cowl and sit down and talk to Waylon one-on-one. And he's like, you know, Waylon, as they look at this giant dinosaur, I used to have one of these in my house. Big house. Killer Croc responds to Batman, you head new now. And Bruce Wayne's like, yeah, if you say so. Killer Croc continues, me head new, but bad now. Lost. I ate the zoo. And Bruce is like, I know you did, buddy. I know. Him head like me up there. How so? Bruce asks. You mean a king? Croc's like, no. Mean, bad, scary, hungry. Can't think. Head bad. Maybe am bad. And in a moment, Dr. Zeller arrives. Hello, Waylon. Came to help as she brings his little mini dinosaur. Do you want my help? Would you like to come home? And Waylon's like, head bad. Made home bad. Am bad. You made a bad choice, Waylon. Now you can make a good choice. Come, let me help you. And she brings Waylon home. And Waylon is like, he looks back at Batman on his way out and he's like, home now. She help. Who help you? But Batman's like, my head is okay, Waylon. I don't need help. And Waylon's like, if you say so. And he gives him his toy dinosaur. Then a little bit later, we pick up on the Upper West Side at the Pennyworth Manor because we found out that Alfred was loaded, and even though Bruce Wayne lost his money, Alfred had a huge bag, and he left this huge mansion to Bruce Wayne. But so Bruce is putting away his new dinosaur, and he's like some trophy. But then he gets a call on the radio. Hey there, boss, you got your ears on? Always, Robin, it's the emergency frequency. And Robin responds, is there anybody on the police force we're friendly with these days? Don't like the sound of that, Bruce responds. Why? And we see that Robin looks like he's about to get arrested, which carries us over to the second issue of this series, when in fact, Robin is about to get arrested. But before that, we pick up in the past at Wayne Manor with Tim and Damian, as Damian is being forced to watch the Batmobile at the moment while Tim is getting ready to get behind the wheel of a car. And while Tim thinks that he's about to get ready to drive the Batmobile, Bruce Wayne is like, I don't know about all that. We're gonna start small. We're gonna start with this little pickup truck. But then we pick back up with the now, as a couple goons stick up a truck driver as he's getting ready to unload some product. And while these guys are getting product, they actually end up shooting the truck driver, which brings Robin out to start busting some heads. And he gets to fighting off these assailants, and he goes to see what it was that the guy stole after he knocks him senseless. He's like, let's see what you were so eager to make off with. Smack, drift, some new cartel narcotoxin. And he tastes it and he's like, hey, it's kind of sweet. And the guy tells him it's just baby formula. Baby's hungry all the time. Well, before they can respond, this is when the police arrive, and they now have Robin at gunpoint. They're like, freeze, move and I shoot. And that's when Robin calls in and asks Batman if they have anybody they're friendly with on the police force these days. Meanwhile, the assailant that had just stolen the baby formula starts to run, and an officer's like, runner, we got a runner. And he just opens fire and shoots the assailant in the back, which sends Robin off. You shot him. Suspects flee the scene and be treated as hostile and can be stopped by any means necessary, the officer tells him. Now get on the ground. But Robin's like, no thank you. And he drops a flashbang and does his acrobat routine to escape and get up out of there. The cop has him too, and as Robin just makes it to the top of the roof, he's hit. Got him, the officer says. Then we pick back up in that past with Tim Drake learning to drive. And he's kind of clammed up and frozen at the moment. He's obviously very frustrated at how this is going, or lack thereof. And Bruce Wayne is like, well, I know it's been a long day and we're both getting frustrated, but think of it like a conversation between you and the truck. Shifting the first, you're shaking hands. And then you ease off the clutch to say, but that's when Damian jumps on the truck. Enough! You've been at this for hours, you incompetent moron. Father, he's a fool. I demand you let me try. And then Bruce looks at Tim. He's like, foot off the clutch, Tim. But now. And he does, and it jerks the car, and it sends Damian flying right off the hood. Oh, excellent, Master Bruce. Well done, says Alfred, who's alive at this point in time. And then Bruce says, okay, Tim, one more time. And remember to breathe, as we pick back up in current day with a shot Tim Drake now being placed into the paddy wagon. You shot me, he tells the cop. Too bad. That's what you get for resisting arrest. I figure some of these fellas are friends of yours, so I'm sure they'll keep you company on our way into Central Holding. And he locks them up in the paddy wagon with a full run of criminals, and none of them are handcuffed. 8 uncuffed gangbangers, and the kid's gut shot and in bracelets. You still gonna rough ride him? The officer's partner says to him. What are you, nuts, asking me that? Of course I'm gonna rough ride him. Show Commissioner Savage we don't need his goon squads to run these streets. Meanwhile, Robin is in the back of this paddy wagon. He's like, think we're having a pretty lousy night here, fellas. Let's all just keep cool, yeah? They like, nah, man, don't think we will. As they're getting that rough ride and are bouncing all around the place, Robin uses that to his advantage, and he used the chaos of the potholes to get some good kicks in and get those angles right, you know? But he essentially just kicks the crap out of all these dudes while being handcuffed, but his wound is getting worse at the same time. Meanwhile, one of the officers the partner looks back and he's like, the kid's kind of holding his own as he's watching Robin kick all these dudes' asses while still being cuffed. But the main officer's like, not for long, and he drifts the paddy wagon. This dude's insane. But it allows Robin to flip his cuffs around to the front and pop them. He's actually able to break free of the cuffs. And the officer's like, son of a, the kid got free. What? How do you? And while they focus on that, they don't see the bat spikes that are laid out, that are rolled out in front of them, and they go crash as we see Batman pulling those spikes together, and he goes to unlock the door for Robin. Rough night, works for them, Robin tells him. But then that officer comes back out. Don't you freaks move. And Robin points out the one, careful Batman, that one shot a fleeing suspect in the back, killed him, shot me too. But the officer's like, I'd do it again if I gotta. Him too, I ain't afraid. But his partner's like, come on man, calm down, Vargas. But Vargas just puts the gun on his partner there. You're on their side now? Known criminals, vigilantes? And his partner's like, what are you talking about? They're on our side. But Batman chimes in at this point, police brutality and murder puts us on opposite sides, officers. Says the vigilante, Officer Vargas says, while he's pointing his shotgun right at Batman. But at this time, his partner pulls his gun on him and he's like, Eddie, don't you do it, I swear to God. And while Batman and Robin are just standing there, these two idiot cops fire on each other. What the hell? And now they're both down and out, and Batman is tending to the aggressor, Officer Vargas, and he's like, good Lord, he shot his own partner. Then he goes to check on Robin, who's addressing the partner's wounds, and Batman tells him, we need to get you out of here. And Robin tells him, I'm fine, the armor took most of it, trying to stop the bleeding. But in that small amount of time, Batman doesn't focus on the main aggressor, Vargas, who pumps that shotgun and boom, fires, and the blast hits Batman right in the back of the head. I'm talking about ringing. Head on fire. But then we switch back over to Tim Drake getting his driving lesson, and Bruce is like, you got in your head. Tim tells him, I just kept thinking, what if I had to drive the Batmobile in an emergency and couldn't get it to move? Then I started choking and was like, don't think about choking, which only made it worse. But then Bruce responds, if that time ever comes, Tim, there's nobody I'd want behind the wheel more than you. You're my partner and I trust you. For now, you work on trusting you the way I trust you, and we'll get there, okay? And he's like, and don't call it the Batmobile. Nobody calls it that. Tim's like, nobody calls it that yet. But then we pick up in the current day and Batman's head is just ringing. And Tim's like, man, you really got your bell rung. We gotta go, more cops ain't coming. And Bruce can barely stand, he can barely walk at the moment. He's like, all right, I might throw up. And Tim's like, well, don't. I'll tell Damien and you'll never hear the end of it. But he tells him he patched up the one cop the best that he could, and he'll hold on until the EMTs get here. As we see that the one cop, the partner of the aggressor, Vargas, he's like, Eddie, I'm sorry. I'm just so sorry. Because he's looking over at his partner that he shot, like these two idiot cops. But Robin puts Batman into the Batmobile, and Bruce is trying to tell Tim that he can drive, but Tim's like, I don't care how much armor plate you have up there. You just took a shotgun blast to the head. So Tim puts Batman in the passenger seat and tells him to buckle up. Hate for you to get hurt. And it's like, funny. Look at you bleeding. But Tim's like, yeah, well, I'm in better shape than you are. And he takes off driving the Batmobile. And when Tim gets ready to start up, he's like, how many gears does this thing have? And Batman's like, 13. Tim's like, oh, hell, of course. What the hell do you need 13 gears for? And Batman tells him, it's got the 9 standard, 3 quantum gears for use during spatial and temporal crisis events. Then there's the secret gear, 13. And Tim's like, wait, secret gear? What does that even mean? And Batman tells him, it means I have the coolest car in the world and I'll drive it, and Tim Drake floors it. And after they leave, we then pick back up with this full crime scene with the 2 shot officers, the one that's deceased and the partner that's being taken into the ambulance. And when Commissioner Savage arrives on the scene, he tells his Tuco squad to get rid of the reporters and break their cameras in their jaws. Savage. He walks over to the deceased body and he reaches in his pocket and he pulls out something, which we don't see in the moment. But then we hear a speech by Vandal Savage. You all know what happened on our streets tonight. We lost one of our own and another is in critical condition. And then he pulls out a weapon, a batarang. What you might not know is who was responsible for this shameless, cowardly attack on our brothers. I know the mayor and your old leadership entertained certain arrangements with regard to amateur law enforcement in Gotham, but I'm changing policy. If the mayor disagrees, he can ask one of you to arrest me. Until then, consider these department-wide standing orders. Batman and Robin are now criminal combatants and enemies of the GCPD. And that, my friends, ends the second issue, which brings us to today's issue number 3. But then we pick up with this young man who's doing some kind of civics project, and he's interviewing this older lady. And as he asks her, how has Gotham changed most in her lifetime, she goes on explaining all Gotham City ever does is change. And she goes on talking about everything that's happened and talking about some of the things that Batman has done over time. But in that moment, they hear gunshots, blam, 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 while this boy is recording this woman on his phone. So he decides to take that phone and he steps outside to see what's going on. And the woman's trying to pull him back in, like, get back in here. But the kid is like, oh man, and he actually captures what we saw at the end of issue 2, the shooting with the police and Batman getting out of there. He got the whole thing on camera and he's like, holy crap. And then we see when Vandal Savage arrived and when he walked up to the deceased officer's body and he actually had pulled out a batarang and placed it at the scene. And then calls for the investigator to tell him we found some evidence placing Batman at the scene. But unbeknownst to Vandal Savage, this kid has got the whole thing on camera. And then we pick up at Mercy Hospital as Vandal Savage addresses the injured cop. And he's like, why wasn't this mentioned in your report about Batman? But the victim is like, I didn't see him, sir. But Savage is like, you and your partner believed you apprehended Robin. The Batman came to his rescue. Say his name, officer. Put him at the scene or you'll never say anything again, as he threatens the man by tightening his breathing tube. But the nurse comes in and just in time and she's like, stand back from the bed, please. And Vandal Savage, he backs away cool. He's like, poor man just began gasping. But then he ends up leaving out of there. And we then see Bruce Wayne at that same hospital. And he comes to check up on Tim, but Tim's got some company in there, a kid by the name of Bernard, a friend. But Tim's like, I'm fine. But Bernard's like, you look like one huge bruise. And Tim's like, well, I kind of am, before Bruce Wayne enters the room. But Tim continues, that's what happens after you go down a mountain on your face and not your skis. But when Bruce Wayne walks in, he tries to comfort Tim. Hey, pal, how you feeling? Tim tells him, Bernard thinks I died in a skiing accident and nobody told me. But Bernard, meanwhile, stops Bruce before he can walk all the way into Tim. He's like, hi, Bruce, step out with me for a second. Tim needs rest. So Bruce is like, of course, and he walks with Bernard. And Bernard's like, thanks for coming. You know, Mr. Wayne. And Bruce is like, call me Bruce. Well, you know, Bruce, I realized something funny the other day. Whenever you and Tim go off on one of your little bro weekends, he always comes back beating up all the hell. Weird, isn't it? I mean, whenever he spends time with you, he gets hurt. Then he takes the flowers and he's like, these are lovely, thanks. Then Bruce Wayne, meanwhile, looks and notices a news broadcast. Who gets to decide who is sane and who is not? And we see on this broadcast, it's that same Dr. Zeller that we met in the first issue, along with Hugo Strange. And they're arguing about sanity, basically. But the doctor has this device that she says gives patients some control back over their brain activity. Fear prevents us from having a say in how our minds respond to the chaos of trauma, she says. but it requires trust, care, and time. And this device of hers, the Crown of Storms, helps regulate electricity in the brain. It calms overstimulated regions and excites understimulated ones, and along with psychiatric medicine. But Hugo Strange interrupts. So you take money from Big Pharma with one hand and Wayne Enterprises with the other. What a perfect scam. Selling snake oil would have more dignity. So a reporter asks, Dr. Zeller, has receiving funding from Wayne Enterprises compromised your work? And the doctor responds, we received a grant from the Wayne Family Endowment that financed our pilot program. They have no oversight or input on my work. That money has gone into building a prototype device and launching our first human trials. But Strange interrupts, I don't need your trials to tell me I am human. If people like you applied your devices to Van Gogh, he would never have painted Starry Night. But she responds, or maybe Van Gogh would have painted 100 Starry Nights instead of dying in agony at the age of 37. Which brings a smile to Bruce Wayne's face. He likes what he's hearing from his doctor. Meanwhile, Damian's sparring with him and realizes that he's not paying attention, and he gives him a nice little kick to the face. You're distracted. But Bruce Wayne, as he snaps back, he's like, and you're dodging the question. You've been accepted to Gotham U 4 years early. Attending at your age would be an exceptional honor and challenge. Training with the League of Assassins taught you much. But there's a world out there for you to discover, Damian. And Damian responds, I've studied combat, martial arts, medicine, criminology. What subject could I have possibly left unmastered? And Bruce responds, the important one, son. Like literature, history, poetry, art, girls. They have girls at college, Damian. Smart ones. It's okay to be scared of the outside world. And Damian's like scared as he fights off of his grip of Batman. I fear no man, for my mission is righteous. How could you forget? It was you who taught me that. As an angry Damian takes off his headgear and walks off. Meanwhile, we see Bruce talking with Alfred. Did I ever do that to you, Alfred? Physically, sir, no. Spiritually, many times. But then we pick up with Jim Gordon, who reaches out to Harvey Bullock, who's now a private investigator. And he's like, geez, Harvey, what took so long? You sleep on the phone again? And Harvey's like, well, if it ain't the world's oldest beat cop, jumping Jimmy Gordon. How's the shin splints, Rook? Very funny. I need you to toss up the signal. Something's up with Savage. Harvey's like, something's up with Savage. Real genius detective work there, Jim. But he's like, Harv, I'm serious. The GCPD has declared open season on bats. It's about to get ugly. So he's like, all right, well, consider the bat signal activated, as he puts a toy bat in the window of his investigation office. Then we meet up at Wayne Enterprises as Bruce Wayne is meeting with his board. And then, Mr. Wayne, we can increase profits for the division 240% year over year. Mr. Wayne, hello? I said 240%. And Bruce is like, no. I don't care if it's munitions, missiles, tanks, or body armor. I won't put my family name on military equipment. But the board's like, you're leaving government contract money on the table. Bruce again reiterates, no, I'm leaving it on a battlefield, Blake. I can live with that. Moving on. What's this Zeller thing? Some kind of grant out of experimental sciences? The Zeller, is that one L or no one cares about it? They're like, it's a dog, Mr. Wayne. She used 2.5 times the titanographene we have on hand that Lucius Fox whipped up. Then again, you won't allow it to be sold as body armor. It's not a profitable venture. But as Bruce walks away, he tells them profit isn't the only thing that makes a venture viable, Blake. That will be it for today, everyone. Then we pick up with Batman meeting up with Jim and Harvey after Batman has got the official bat signal. And Harvey's like, how much taxpayer money we spent on that rooftop flashlight you had all those years? When all it takes is a crappy stuffed animal jammed in a window to get your attention? Batman's like, that was Jim's idea, not mine. It was a symbol, Jim responds. For them, not him, so everyone knew. Yeah, I remember. But Batman's like, gentlemen, as much as I like to reminisce, I got a busy night. I assume you had bad news for me. And they tell him Savage is using the shootout last night to make some changes in GCPD policy and operations. He wants to leak to the press that he has evidence you're a cop killer. He's issued orders to shoot on sight and deputized a private mercenary squad to do the job. The mayor's pushing back for now, but we all know how that'll end. Savage and the GCPD are about to declare a war on Batman and Robin. But then we pick up at the Wayne Experimental Sciences building as the Riddler walks through it. When are rent-a-cops as useful as a pair of sneakers? When is a drag race a real drag? When does the rooster miss the sunrise? And what did Napoleon do for his toothache? As Riddler tries to steal that storm cap or whatever this thing is called by Dr. Geller. But right as he goes to grab it, boom, he's clocked in the face by Batman. Oh, Edward, who was wearing a stealth suit and heard all of those riddles. And he actually answers them when they're tied up, when it goes down without a car, when the alarm is off, and he took the crown. He stands there and answered all of the Riddler's riddles. You were really keeping it together there for a while, Edward, CEO of Enigma Tech. So rich you could buy your way out of any trouble. Top of the world, what happened? But the Riddler gets up and he tries to fight off Batman, but we know that's not gonna work. And Batman just throws him right back down. Please, Edward, stop this. But Edward Nygma grabs a piece of glass and he keeps on trying to fight and swing at Batman while riddling. When is the filmography of the Beatles incomplete? Why do ears hate bathrooms? Why did the perpetual motion machine get a ticket? Riddle me that. Well, riddle me that. And Batman does, when it needs help, because there's too much noise in the head. And what, Edward? Tell me, why did the perpetual motion machine get a ticket? Oh God, says Edward Nygma, because it couldn't stop. And he gives Batman a note. Here. And Batman reads it out loud. When is an unmade omelet crunchy? When it's eggs. Where does John get the news? Toilet paper. What is this? A grocery list? Hours. It took me hours, the Riddler tells him. Make it stop. Just make my head stop. And Batman gives him a sedative that puts him to sleep. Then we pick up at a restaurant in Lower Gotham as the kid walks in and he talks to a Mr. Jack Dean, a reporter. The kid's like, Mr. D? And the guy's like, depends on who's asking. He owe you money? And the kid's like, what? No, what? My name's Houston. I live in your building. I'm doing a homework assignment. And the dude's like, I don't tutor, kid. And I don't do internships. No, sir. I don't want any of that. I filmed something tonight. Like, I think it could be news. And that's what you do, right? You're a newspaper man? But then we pick up with Batman as he's fleeing with a heavily sedated Riddler, Edward Nygma, in his backseat. And he asks, did Hugo Strange put you up to this little smash and grab, Edward? Going on TV like that, he may as well have put up wanted posters. But Nygma's like, who? What? No. They. I heard, when ain't K harem? And he's out of it. He's just gibbering and he ends up falling back to sleep. And meanwhile, Batman's like, ain't calls attention to itself. K, 1,000, harem, forbidden, could be gibberish. But Alfred says to him, you know, harem has a secular usage set aside. It's an anagram, Master Bruce, with a double negative twist. So when is K part of harem? When it's in Arkham. I believe the Riddler was telling you that your Dr. Zeller has been using her experimental device on the patients in Arkham. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the issue. So I know we went on for a long time now, but I wanted to make sure you guys got everything you needed from issues 1 through 3, so now we can follow this thing through. But I want to hear all you guys' thoughts and theories on what did you think about this issue and this entire series so far. I really like what Mac Fraction is doing. I mentioned earlier, I really like the blue suit. But I like how these are individual self-contained stories, but you can also see that they're building up towards something. Like, is Dr. Zeller the real bad guy here? Is her device being used for nefarious means? Definitely can't wait to see how this thing plays out. But what do you guys think? Let me hear about everything you got to say about this down in the comments. But ladies and gentlemen, I've taken enough of you guys' time, so I appreciate you guys stopping by. And before you leave, you can do your boy a huge solid by dropping a like, share this video, and subscribing to the channel for more icons in the comic book world. But ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. I'm out. Peace.